If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This has been another episode sponsored by Online Horse College. If you haven't had a look at the wide variety of equine-specific accredited courses, then go to onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there. Our guest today is Helen Barnes. Helen's a dressage specialist rider, trainer and coach. She used to have another career and she used to then fit her horses in around her other career. But for the last 11 years, she's been coaching full-time, and that's the main thing that we need to talk to her about today. How are you, Helen?
Good, thank you.
Good. Helen, have you got a favourite quote for us? We normally start off just getting to know you a bit with that quote.
I suppose there's a couple. One comes from Hans Bringer, who wrote Horses Are Meant to Be Horses. I really like Slow Down, I'm in a Hurry. Mm-hmm. I feel that often it's in today's society, but I think sometimes you do see it in the horse industry as well. People do look for quick fixes and pushing horses perhaps quicker than they should be to a certain goal. And I think often if we just take that little bit longer, we actually will get there quicker, but doing it, working more with the horse. And the other one that is probably one of a quote of mine, I suppose. It may well be somewhere else as well, but the other one I like is a horse has to seek the contact. We shouldn't actually be asking for it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that, slow down if you're in a hurry. It sort of goes back, and France was very good about getting the basics established, So,
yeah.
So if you hurry through the grades, you've still got to go back, get to a certain level, and you've still got to go back and keep working on your basics. But if you can do them well in the first place, then that's good. Did you have lessons with Franz?
No, I didn't actually, but I don't know whether you want to go to that later or do you want me to go to that now?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
I was going to say that was the next question anyway. It was about starting to ride. But anyway, keep going.
Yep, okay. So I started to ride at the age of 4. My father was a very good horseman. My grandfather was the vet to what would now be the Sri Lankan Jockey Club, but he was actually English. So my father started me on the journey, and I suppose my first memory of riding is learning to ride trot on the bluff at Victor Harbour, which, unless you're South Australian, that probably isn't going to mean a lot. But back in those days, it had no houses on it. It was just a huge open hill, essentially, overlooking the sea. And I can certainly remember my father going up, down, as I was trotting across this over 100-acre paddock at the age of 4. So that's probably my first memory and my first person that actually influenced me in my career with horses. Mm-hmm. I'd like to mention 3 other people, though. One is a lady by the name of Philippa Borg, who her and her husband owned Filton Park Stud in Roseworthy in South Australia, and I worked with her for a number of years. She's now retired and lives on Bribie Island in Queensland. She certainly developed my passion to coach. Mm-hmm. And I'd regularly, when I used to go to Royal shows with her, we'd often sit in the stands and she'd say, how would you like to change that rider? What would you suggest they did? So she was probably the first person that influenced me to wanting to become a coach. The others were Mary Hovers, who up until very recently was a level 3 coach educator. I had lessons with her for a number of years in my early 20s, and she certainly was very enthusiastic about me becoming an EA coach back then. More recently, I went to a school a few years ago now with Christoph Hess, and I went into that school with a view that obviously he was going to be very Germanic, came away with a completely different outlook, and it sort of reiterated my feeling that we should be riding more with our body and less with our hands. And he had the entire state dressage squad trying to do downward transitions without using their hands. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So those are probably the 3 people that have influenced me a lot. Probably the other one that I do refer to as well is Manolo Mendez, who I feel that I'm on his page as well.
Yep, that's good. Okay, so you talked about going up, down, and that was your first memories. What about your career? Because you had another career first, and then for the last 11 years you've been coaching full-time. Tell us about how you changed your career. What influenced you? Because you had horses the whole time, didn't you?
Yes.
And you used to fit your horses in around your career. Yeah.
I've had horses all my life. I think there were about 2 years when I was finishing my uni degree that I actually did lease my horse out.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from that, I've always had horses in varying numbers.
Yep. And you said earlier that you always had a dream to start coaching and to be coaching full-time, but what was the crunch? What made you decide then to have a career with horses?
Okay, so I started coaching in my early 20s because someone felt that I should do it. Mm-hmm. So I unfortunately did do it unqualified. It was always my passion. Even certainly from that moment on, I decided that that's what I really wanted to do, help riders to be as good as they could be, and hopefully with that help a lot of the horse.
Well, I'm just thinking, because that goes back to Philippa too, because if Philippa's there saying, how would you like to change this rider, and developing your eye, because the coach has got to have their eye developed. It's not just like, I'm going to be a coach now. You've got to learn, what's wrong, what would I like to fix, where do I need to take this rider, what about the horse, where do I need to take the horse? And you've still got to develop your eye and have the knowledge of the training scale and what to go through to get the horse and the rider to where you want them. So when you're with Philippa, that would have been helping you to start that coaching, as you said.
Oh, definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. And I'm not saying I'm, by any means better than anyone else. However, it was very evident when I started my EA course that most of the people that started with me hadn't really coached. They'd all been riders, but they hadn't actually done much in the way of coaching. And it was probably at that point that I realised how much I'd learned, not just from Philippa, my father as well. I can remember going to the Royal Show as a very young girl and him saying to me, okay, which horse is going to win and why? So probably most of my life I've had people in my life that have tried to hone my skills as far as being observant to riders and horses. Yep. And I think as a coach, that's probably really the most important skill that you need to develop. As well, it is one of the most important things you need to develop, because you can't really help people unless you've got that eye.
Yeah.
And just because you can ride doesn't necessarily mean you can teach. That's
right. So you talked about your observation skills as a coach. What about just generally working with horses? Do you think that someone having observation skills just with their general work with horses is a good core skill?
Oh, I think it's vital, because otherwise you really run the risk of getting hurt.
Yep.
And I see that often, and I think when you develop over a life with horses as well, you've got to learn to read them.
Yes.
And if you don't read them, and they do talk to us, if you don't read what they're saying to us, you're putting yourself in huge danger. And it can be something quite subtle that the horse is actually telling us, and we're saying, well, the horse, I certainly over the years have heard it, the horse is just being naughty, or, whatever. Well, the horse could be in pain, or the saddle might not be fitting, or any number of those sorts of factors can be the reason why the horse is telling us something.
Yep.
And I always like to sort of exclude those sort of things before we say, well, okay, now we need to be a little bit firmer, and we need to say, well, no, we're actually going to do this. Yep. But more often than not, there's another reason why the horse is telling us something.
Yes, they do, and it is subtle. Now, just going back to someone working in the horse career, having a horse career, or if someone was working for you, you want them to have good observation skills. What else do you want them to have?
Good observation skills. I want them to be very aware of the danger of working in the horse industry. Certainly, even things like being sun smart, for instance, in our climate, but always wearing appropriate clothing, always wearing boots or at least covered in shoes. People that often are a little bit quieter and will feed back to you. So I would prefer to someone, and I try to get this to myself as well, that you might not always be right. Let's just slow down a bit and say, well, what am I looking at here? And what should I be doing about this? Safety is always paramount, because you can get so badly hurt.
Yes, definitely.
Is that sort of where you were wanting me to go with
well,
that,
I think, you're sort of talking about the person who is aware, but again, you came back to slowing down if you're in a hurry, so coming back to that. Yeah, and I think someone that's aware of safety, but also it sounds like you want them to be willing to listen if you tell them something, but you're willing to discuss things if, someone's always going to have a different opinion. That's how we learn, is from people having different opinions.
Yeah, and, and it's relevant to age too. You can have someone who's half my age that I can certainly still learn from, because they might have seen something slightly differently.
Yes.
And I think that's really, really, really relevant. Yeah, I think safety is paramount. You've got to take the time, certainly with horses, and read the horse, because if you're stressed or you've had a bad day or you're in a hurry and you go in there with that sort of attitude, the horse is going to pick up on it and you might not necessarily get the outcome you want.
Yep. What do you think's the best thing about working in the horse industry?
I suppose from my point of view, well, there's many things. As far as I'm concerned, I've got the dream job. I've had the privilege of meeting people that I would have never met had I not taken the career change that I took. I travel all over South Australia now, primarily north of Adelaide. I go as far west as Ceduna. I'm going there this weekend. And I've met people in different lifestyles that have done different things with their horses, and that certainly assisted my learning with horses as well. I love working for myself. I don't just work for myself, though. I coach dressage all over the state. I also work for varying clubs, pony clubs and all those sorts, and interschool and all those sorts of things. I also am the coordinator of the equestrian program at Trinity College in Gawler, which is growing significantly. So I've got sort of two roles in my life at the moment. I think it's just being outdoors, meeting people, meeting different horses, learning more about, not just different horses, but different breeds, and honing your skills on how to help different people with different horses.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of people say that, I don't want to change. I ask them about what they're looking forward to in the future, and they say, pretty much more of the same. I'm happy,
Yeah, and that's my answer to that, definitely.
Yeah.
I suppose, because I'm not as I used to be either, in the longer term, I suppose I would like to do more work closer to home, perhaps not travel so much, but I can't see that stopping in the near future at all.
Now, you talked about people who've influenced you. What about, have you got a horse or any horses that have influenced you that you think have been pivotal in changing your career, influencing you?
I suppose, overall, every horse you ever ride or interact with, you learn something from every single one of them. Sometimes it might be things you think, heavens, I'm not going to do that again, but others influence you more holistically. I did have a big black thoroughbred gelding for many years that I did compete quite successfully on. And I suppose the one thing he taught me was you cannot hang on with your hands, because he just, he'd kick off if you try to hold on to him. And that was in my 20s as well, and that really taught me that there's a better way.
Yeah.
And he was a grand horse. Not many people liked him or even got on with him, but for some reason or other we just gelled, and he was a fantastic horse. And he did teach me a lot. He had certainly had a very rough life before I'd got him. He was actually given to me, and he was just, he was one out of the box.
What was his name?
His registered name was Harbison. He was actually named after the vet Bill Harbison, who saved his life as a horse that was just broken in, because the breaker had actually broken his jaw and he got osteomyelitis in his jawbone. Okay. So Bill saved his life, and unfortunately he was also the vet that actually had to put him to sleep at 23.
Well, it sounds like he had a good life with you, though, if he sort of went from breaking in to 23. Yeah. What do you think your proudest moment was?
Look, I looked at that question and I thought, I just think they keep on rolling. And I suppose for me now, it's watching clients enjoy their horses at whatever level they might be at, whether it be clients that just want to go out for a trail ride or someone that wants to compete at a national competition, because I do teach or coach on all of those levels. And I think it's just watching people on a regular basis enjoy their horses for whatever reason.
Yep. Thinking about where you are now, you're working full-time with horses, you're coaching full-time. It's something that you even when you were younger, you sort of, even though you had another career, you were dreaming about this. What's been the biggest challenges, though, to get to where you are now?
I suppose getting your name out there and becoming known, because, as I say, I rode a lot when I was younger, but when I broke my back at 28, as much as I still had horses and still rode, my nursing career actually took over. And I was still involved and I was still coaching to a lesser degree, but I was probably, people of my era would remember me, but there's a whole group in the middle that wouldn't really have known me too much at all. So when I became a full-time coach, I had to actually get my name out there. And I think the other thing that is hard in the industry is the fact that there's not a lot of loyalty, and you don't expect people to stay with you forever. That's not where I'm going with that at all. But it can be quite soul-destroying from time to time. And you've got to develop an inward toughness, I suppose, to not let those sort of things bother you.
I think that sort of brings us back because, people train as coaches and instructors. You learn how to teach, you develop your skills, you do a good job, but it's the business management skills, isn't it? Because, you're saying about getting your name out. Well, there's been a lot of people who don't compete, who've still got a name, but they've gone and they've been very clever with their marketing. So it's the business management skills.
And I think there's quite a lot of gaps in coaching, training of coaches. I think certainly managing your own business, you need business skills. And fortunately, I've got prior qualifications in that. But I think, yes, managing your own business is a skill that certainly, to my awareness, isn't something that's readily taught.
Yep.
So, yes, I think all of that sort of thing is very relevant. Although in saying that, I should probably backtrack a bit now, because I'm actually not on Facebook. I've not got a website, and yet I'm booked 12 months in advance.
Yep. Okay. So it's just when you first started that you were having the trouble getting going, but now that you're going, you're pretty happy with where you are. And
oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And look, what I did to start with was I would do 2 or 3 clinics for free a year, as to donate whatever profits they made from them to a core organisation. And I still do that to a degree, just for clubs that I feel are really battling and trying hard, but perhaps just need that little bit more money to purchase a piece of equipment or floodlights or whatever it might be.
Do you think that's a good tip for people? Say if you're getting going and you're not getting enough work, go out, do some work for free so that you do get, it is a bit of marketing. Like, yes, you've got to go the day and work for the day and do it for nothing, but the club's more likely then when they've got a little bit of money to pay you to come back if you're doing a good job, and other people are then going to, the word gets out if you do a great job.
Well, I think it's the best thing I ever did. And I think also as someone in the horse industry, it's got to be a give and take. Like, obviously, I do need to make a living like everyone else does. However, it can't all be about taking. It must be about giving as well and supporting people in the industry. And as I say, I still do some voluntary stuff in the industry. I certainly managed to move horses, sell horses within my client base. I never charge for that. I do provide quite a lot of services that I don't charge for because people need support and it's not all about money.
No, that's right. Yeah. And if you've got your dream job, that's more important than making a lot of money and being unhappy with it.
Well, and I just think it helps to maintain your integrity as well. Really. Yeah. If people see you actually there to support them in every way you can,
yes,
I think it's better for you and it's better for them, and makes the world go round.
Wait, can you hear anything? No? That's because we're waiting for someone with a good quality horse product to be advertised here. If that's you, then contact us, horsechats@horsechats.com, and we'll send you the details. Thanks. Now, I know you're really keen on the partnership with the horse, and you really focus a lot on the partnership with the horse within your teaching. What's a common thing that you see people when you first meet them that shows that they're not working in a partnership, and how could they improve that so that the partnership between the two is better?
I think a lot of people aren't really taught how to ride with their body. They do tend to be very hand-driven, and that often doesn't go well. Just things as simple as, for instance, taking someone for a walk with their eyes closed, leading them and let them follow the horse and get them to just stop the horse by stopping there. Mm-hmm. And time again, I very rarely ever find anyone who's ever had that done. And realising that often the resistance you get from a horse is because you're holding onto the reins too tightly.
Yeah.
And it's things like learning to, if you turn your shoulders, the horse is going to turn. Your shoulders have to stay parallel to the horse's shoulders. It's just, I suppose, people that have never been really taught to build that partnership and actually read the horse and work with the horse. Mm-hmm. That's what I often see as a major problem, and I'm always surprised how surprised people are that it actually works.
Yeah. All right, so really you're thinking that people should learn to read their horses a bit more and do the work on the ground so then they could understand a bit more once they're on top.
Yeah, and, they will, yes, understand it on the ground, but then have them on the horse and actually say, well, have a look at what you're achieving by just turning and following and all those sorts of things, and be really aware of your body. Use your core for your half halts rather than pulling on a horse's head. Mm-hmm. All those sort of things I find work really well. I do a lot of adjusting the pace within the gate with riders using their core, so the horse comes through more from behind. Yeah, that's
okay. Good. That's good. Now, Helen, have you got a book that you could recommend to our listeners just to complement their training?
I suppose I've got 3 authors that I do like. Mm-hmm. Certainly Franz Meringer's Horses Are Made to Be Horsed, but I think anything by Sally Swift or Mary Wanless certainly worth a Guernsey.
Yep.
And I suppose for me, I'm not inclined to want to hang my hat on one guru, because I think you can gain a lot from everyone. Some people more than others, certainly. I think it's being open to listening to different things from different people.
And remember, you can find all the books recommended by our guests at horsechats.com/books. You can have a look at the guest page for the individual book they recommended, or just look at the recommended books by order of popularity at horsechats.com/books. Yeah, and I think that's something you said about, someone who works for you want them to be open-minded and be ready to learn. So if you've got that quality in yourself, and encourage your own students to be open and keep learning. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I remember Philippa, donkey years ago now, saying to me, because I was really actually the thoroughbred I was telling you about, and he was being naughty, and at one point Philippa said, "What would you do? Go and ride the horse." So, and I did, and it worked, because he was just having a moment and he just needed to go forward more and then come back and settle down, and he was fine. So I think, that's something else I learned from her. Sometimes you need to ask the student, well, what would you do? And then perhaps modify that or work with that.
Yep. No, that's good. That's good. Now, you talked before about, you're travelling quite a bit at the moment. You love doing what you're doing. You just like to be travelling less. Is there anything else that you're looking forward to? And then, you've got schools booked for the next 12 months. Anything else you want to include?
The other thing I've also been driving for a number of years, as in carriage driving.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I've been fortunate enough to be given a New Forest pony who was actually one of the Australian champion CDE horses, and he's actually been given to me. I'm leasing him to Trinity College as a school horse, but I am planning on actually getting a vehicle that is suitable for his size and expanding my harness driving. Mm-hmm. I'd like to do some harness dressage and probably not marathons, but certainly do some obstacles as well. Yep. So I'm interested in carriage driving. I hope to be driving at the Adelaide Royal this year. So, that's something that I do enjoy. I also judge dressage quite a lot. In the long term, I suppose I wouldn't mind doing a bit more judging when I'm coaching a bit less. But I'm really happy with what I'm doing at the moment. I'd just like to probably expand it a little bit more and perhaps do a little bit more for me in the horse industry as well.
No, that sounds good. Now, if you can summarise your philosophy, take it into a few sentences and make it into a message, something that our listeners can take away and something they'll remember you by.
I think listen to the horse is probably my main thing. And as I said from Franz Moringa, slow down, I'm in a hurry. Look at yourself when you're training and riding. Is there something that you're doing that's influencing the horse? Not saying it always is. I do feel, though, it's perhaps more common than what a lot of people truly do realise, that they need to be more aware of what their horse is telling them.
Yes.
And that will build a partnership and they will get far more out of the horse. Even to the likes of when you go into the yard to catch your horse, do you automatically always walk up to the horse or do you let the horse come to you? Even if it's just one step towards you before you go and catch the horse. You need to work as a team with your horse. Yep,
that's good. Helen, how can people contact you?
My phone number is 0408 834 143, or you can email me at hjbarnes, all lowercase, at internode.on.net.
Okay, good. Helen, thanks for talking to us today. Been good talking to you. Interested in how you're going with your carriage driving. I sort of want to maybe get you back and talk a little bit about that. But I think just some of your tips, some really good tips. Slowing down if you're in a hurry, getting your basics established is a really good message to send out as well. So thanks for talking to us today, and hopefully we'll talk to you again sometime soon.
Thanks very much, Glenys.
Bye.
Bye.
Now, if you're still there, you probably know that I'm absolutely passionate about education within the horse industry. That's why I host this podcast. My other venture is Online Horse College. Have a look now at onlinehorsecollege.com and I'll see you over there.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.